Welcome to the podcast Crash, Burn, Rise Again, where we share stories of burning out and rebuilding better. Join myself, Shireen Lister, your host, and my special guests as we share our personal journeys through burnout, stress, overwhelm, and more, and show how we came out the other side. Learn and leverage from the lessons and wisdom we gained along the way so we can help you to rise too. Hello and welcome everyone to episode 8 of the podcast. And today I am very happy and very privileged to be sharing the stage with Lesa Blackham from Lesa Blackham Coaching. Hello, Lesa. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Shireen. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a wonderful opportunity. I love kind of having these conversations with like-minded women. So I'm so excited to be on your show today.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear about your experiences and your journey. It's really lovely. We connected through my podcast and there's so many similarities in our journeys. We're both former teachers who've seen the light and avoided burning out anymore from teaching. There's nothing against people who teach us. We've seen the light to not get stuck in patterns of burnout that were happening for us. And you also are a coach now. And as you were sharing with me earlier, you started with that of helping people out of burnout. And now you really help women to kind of reclaim their power and their potential so they can thrive. So can you share a little bit about who you work with and what you do in that field?
Yes, thanks, Shireen. I love that question. I did start my journey as a coach. I think one of my first workshops was Blitz the Burnout, actually. So we do have a similar path. High school teacher for 30 years, realising that there had to be a better way. And I've only just recently resigned, although I've worked part-time for a very long time, because who can work full-time in the teaching industry, let's face it. So now I actually work with women who would maybe identify as people pleasers, because people pleasing has become their go-to habit that keeps them stuck repeating things like burnout, constantly getting into burnout or overwhelm or even stress and anxiety. So I help them to really pare back who it is that they truly are and figure out ways to step back into their personal power and live life by design, if you like, on their terms, how they want to, instead of being dictated by their people pleasing and those habits to, do what everybody else wants, and actually start doing some of the things that they want to do so that they can achieve their goals, achieve their dreams, and have life that's so much more content, peaceful, calm, happy, a lot of happiness. I get lots of ladies who just want to be happier in life because they feel so kind of overwhelmed by everything that it's just not fun. Life's not fun anymore. So we get a bit of fun back in their lives, which is beautiful.
That sounds fantastic. And I think sometimes it's just even discovering what is fun and what we love again. I think, as a reforming people pleaser myself, it's still a journey. I'd forgotten everything that I enjoyed. Like I'd lost touch with it. I didn't even know who I was. So it's beautiful that I'm sure that's a part of the journey for some of the women you work with,
it really
as it was
is.
for me. Yeah,
it really is. And interestingly, I would have to say 80 to 90% of the ladies I work with, that is one of the things that they say. I say, so what do you love doing? What do you want to do? And what brings you light and joy? And they're like, they really don't know. They just are lost for words because they've been so busy doing everything that everybody else wants that they don't even know what it is that they want. So yeah, I can really relate to that.
Yeah, that was me 3.5 years ago. I sat there and someone asked me that question. I went, I don't know. Is that bad? I wasn't even aware of what I was missing. And it's a beautiful journey when we start to find, again, what fills us up. So I love that you offer that to support women through finding themselves again and having that fun and that happiness, and that I like to think of it as bliss is kind of the higher version of that for me. Awesome.
Yeah. Bring on the bliss.
Yeah, it's kind of got that calm happiness about it in my mind. It's definitely one of my higher ideals. So I love that you help people with that sort of stuff. I want to go back a little bit though to when you were teaching. Say it's something that's not very sustainable full time, but there was a time when you were working full on in the teaching world. And what was that like for you? How was stress happening? How did you get to this place where you would label it as you were burnt out?
Yeah, and burnt out on a regular basis. It wasn't just a one-off, wow, that was it was regular. And I would have to say at least twice a year back in the heyday when I was working full-time, or at least, probably 0.6, I think I got down to when my kids were really little. My children are grown and left home now. So we're talking maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and I was working part-time with two young, active children who also had lots of things going on. Burnout would be at least twice a year, so midway through the year and at the end of the year, basically because I couldn't say no. Let's face it, I am a recovering people pleaser, or I was like heavily into trying to do everything for everyone. So I would say yes to everything. And I'm also feeling like there was perfectionism in there as well. So not just getting it done, but getting it done to the nth degree, like making sure everything was as perfect as I could get it. So time was spent doing lots of that, over preparing, being accountable. And, teaching is like that. I mean, you do have to be well prepared. You're dealing with 30 plus kids, so you need to be ready for that. And also not only over preparing, but making sure that I was being accountable to my upline, so my head of department and my deputies, as well as the parents, as well as the students, and as well as my peers. So accountability and this need to make sure I had everything all perfect, plus saying yes. So I would go on school camps and I would take excursions out, or, that was just my teaching role. I'd go and be my classroom. So I was doing lots and lots and lots. And so by July, you can imagine building up, doing all of these things. We are a vessel that literally has a limited amount of time and energy and resources. So what I was doing was chipping away at my energy and my resources. And by resources, I mean my, self-care, caring for myself and making time to fill my cup up. I was chipping away at those over the term, chip, until the end of term. Basically, reports are done and everything is done, and you can finally, have a break, because let's face it, you don't really have a break in the middle of term, between term 1 and 2, because you're preparing for term 2. So term 3, so that midterm break at the middle of the year, I would just fall in a big heap. And of course, that's the time when my family would like to go on holidays, because it's cold here in winter. So we want to go where it's warm. So the first week of the holidays, I was literally wiped out, could not function, exhausted, beyond exhausted. And I generally get sick as well, because I'd warded off any illness. I didn't have time to be sick during the term. Mm-hmm. You know what it's like as a teacher, setting up a relief lesson for someone else to take your class. You might as well just turn up. You might as well do what you have to do and just get on with it. So, I would put my self-care and everything else that I needed to do at the bottom of the list, and just keep pushing and push until July, school holidays, can't work, can't do anything. I've just literally got to rest. And the same thing happens in December at the end of the year, which is really convenient when, you have family Christmases to organise, and, the family all wants to go and have fun, because there's all the end of year parties and there's end of year concerts. There's all this fun stuff. And I'm having a burnout episode where I'm literally no good to anybody. So that was kind of how burnout showed up for me, and all of the stress and anxiety that came with that was just yuck, to be honest. It was not fun at all. Twice a year, yay.
Yeah. And it's just like your body just reaches a point where it can't do anymore, isn't it? It is what it sounds like really is how it was manifesting for you. And in some ways, thank God, every 6 months your body would just shut down so you could regroup. But you know, it's not a convenient way of living, and you're missing out on all the good stuff.
Absolutely.
And filling your cup in other ways. Like your body's rejuvenating, but there's all the emotional stuff, the fun. Because for people who don't know teachers well or haven't taught, I think the thing that they miss about what makes us busy as teachers as well is we're carrying an emotional load for little people all the time. Children don't regulate their emotions in the same way that adults can. We don't always, but we can. So we're holding that space as well as doing all the things, ticking the boxes, doing all our stuff, holding our things. So that in and of itself, I used to find exhausting as a teacher. And I think there's a few jobs that are like that. Nurses, I think, have it because people are ill. Childcare and teaching definitely does. And it's huge. And so then when, like you and I, we add doing everything and being everything to everyone, I'm exhausted again listening to it. I'm going, I know why I don't teach anymore.
Oh,
Because
yes.
I was similar. I tried to be everything to everyone was my way of doing it. And yeah, like you, just trying to leave a relief lesson was painful. And I wouldn't allow myself. You know, we make all these stories, don't we, that, oh, that's too hard, or my kids need me for this, or I need to do this for my team, and such has been off, so I can't. And we just make these stories of how we're so indispensable, but really it just is making stuff harder for ourselves, isn't it? And it's just, as you say, putting that self-care further down the list every step of the way. I remember one day I went in because I had to go for a year 12 class, I thought, because they were year 12, and that's seniors for people not, you know, in the same system as us. And I was doubled over with stomach pains. Like literally, I could not stand up straight to teach my class. But I'm like, but I need to be there. Look how well I'm doing, which was just ridiculous.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like that badge of honor, isn't it? I've got so much on my plate. Give me a pat on the back, can you please? Like, aren't I doing a good thing for you? But there's also a bit of that expectation in our industry that you actually do have to do more than you're capable of, because there's so many, I don't know, everything. Lay it on. Like you have the emotional I was going to say baggage, but that's probably not the right word, but you have all that emotional input from the kids, and teenagers, God blimey, they've got some stuff going on in their lives. So that's big. Then you've got the administrative expectation of all of the roles that you have to play within just administrating being a teacher. And then there's the actual in the classroom. So it gets massive. And I have to say, I do not miss it. Like, literally resigned now almost 2 years ago, and people say to me, oh, do you miss it? And I'm like, no way, Jose. I miss the kids, but I do not miss teaching at all, because it's not sustainable. It really is not, and not the way I was doing it anyway.
Same. There's a few people maybe who can get away with it, and I think there's a lot of people who are ignorant to what it's doing to them. Like they haven't quite woken up to how it's not helpful for them. Yeah. You did though, which is fantastic. So what was the step out of that? So how did you start to make some changes, and what worked best for you, I guess, if you can look at it in hindsight and see?
Yeah. Well, it's a really good question, and it's quite a big question actually, because I guess initially I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I was broken and that I was doing something wrong because I was, having these episodes of burnout. And I was like, why am I doing that? Giving myself these shoulds. I should be able to do everything. I should be superwoman. I should have enough energy to do all of the things that I'm meant to do. This is not convenient, having burnout. So I thought there was something wrong with me. So it took me a while to come to terms with that. And so I would keep, doing the same old thing as we always do the same thing and expect a different result. Bang, no, burnout again. What's wrong with me? So what the catalyst was me being diagnosed with anxiety, because my desire to overplease and overdo and meet everybody else's expectations, that led to a lot of worry. And I spent a lot of time worrying about if I was being a good teacher, if I was being a good teammate, if I was being a good parent, if I was being a good daughter, daughter-in-law, auntie, all of those things. And so anxiety was actually a symptom of my burnout, or that whole cycle. So I was diagnosed with anxiety about 12 years ago now, and that was my tipping point. I was like, now I know why. And through a bit of therapy and a bit of medication to get my brain chemicals back into a bit happier place, I was able to see what I had been doing, that I was just packing in all of these things, trying to win everybody's approval and meet all what I perceived their expectations were of me. And I was like, okay, this is not working for me now. So I started a bit of a, personal development journey. I guess that was the beginning of me doing things differently, because I was on autopilot. Knew no different. Everybody around me was doing the same thing. No one had ever said, you don't have to do all of those things. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I just believed that was how it was. And I was like, whoa, something wrong with me. And then I realized there was nothing wrong with me, but I did have to do things. So that began the journey of taking things away, letting go of lots of all the external stuff that I didn't need to be responsible for, and just focusing on more of what was important. Now, I love my job, so I wanted to keep my job, but I couldn't do it full time. So I went down to part time. I guess once the kids were born, it was easier to do that. And fortunately, my husband was in a position that I didn't need to work full time. So I cut back hours at work. But then I also started doing, because I had that other time, I was able to do some things for me. So I started to explore what it was that I needed to do that filled my cup up. And that's where I came across yoga and meditation. And I loved it so much, I ended up studying both of them. So I became a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher. And because of the learnings and the teachings that you get through those two modalities, I was able to understand how my mind worked and why I was saying yes to all the things that I didn't need to say, which then led me down the path of NLP training, so mindset training, and learning about how the brain works and what we focus on, and how we can actually change the things that we focus on. And the beautiful part of all of this is now I have all of these incredible tools and ways to let go of stuff that I no longer need to do, or that's not in my realm of responsibility, so that I can fill my own cup up. And I get to teach that to other women, because out of that came this shift from teaching in the education system to being a mentor or a guide or a life coach to other women who have been on similar journeys to what I have, and want to live in a different way. So that's kind of the full circle, I guess.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love how, it's so common often, if we're teachers, we're always teachers, aren't we? And how you say, yeah, I loved yoga and meditation, so I learned how to teach it. And I'm the same. It's like, if I do something, well, then I'll teach it. And, and it's the way that we evolve, as I was sharing with you before we started recording. Like, I'm now getting into workshops and trainings because that's just my happy places to be teaching. But like you, it wasn't sustainable in the system the way that it was in education. I love to see people learn and to support them in that, but not that environment. It's just not a great place to be. And I love that. I think, that idea of letting things go, and really starting to get clear on what's important to you, what was important to do that job, because we might not really change very much externally in our job and what we do. We might do all the same things, but there's stuff that, isn't it, where we can mentally let go of a little bit, and we can stop being a perfectionist about things, or ask someone for help on that thing that we hate and they love at work and things like that. I think that's a beautiful first step
Yeah,
And
it really is.
understanding yourself more. Like that's now what I
Yeah.
do with people, is help them understand so we can change. Hey.
Yeah, totally. And it's that kind of that mindset shift that all the things you thought you were meant to be doing and carrying this massive load, and then just like going, oh, I actually don't need to hold on to that. Like you can still be compassionate, you can still be kind, and I can still do all of the things that I, need to do to live, kind of thing. But I don't need to carry 30 kids worth of emotions. I can hold space for them in that moment, but I don't need to take it with me. And I was taking all sorts of stuff with me.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But I guess now I don't, because I'm not in the system, I can curate my own system or my own habitat, my own environment now, which I just love being able to do. Like if I don't want to, if I'm not got the energy to show up, well, then I don't have to show up today. Whereas when I was at school, if I didn't have the energy, I was like, I had to go. Anyway, pull up your big girl panties and put on your coat of armor and off you go. And that just is not sustainable. Now I recognize that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely spent a long time doing that. And I think when we are people pleasers and perfectionists, we get caught up in that, oh, but everyone needs me to keep doing it. People are not going to say stop doing that if you're doing all these extra things. They're going to go, this is great, I love it. And it's about retraining them that, hang on, I'm not going to do extra anymore. I'm still going to do what I need to do, but maybe not this extra thing, or I need your help. And I think it takes time to unravel that for ourselves and for the people around us. But they're not going to just one day go, stop helping out. You stop working till 11 o'clock at night. I'll do that. It's no one's going to come and say that to us.
No.
And it took me a while, I think.
Don't they say? Yeah, it does. Took me a long time too, because it's like what they say, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Like, hello, have I got a label on my head? And of course, you just say yes, don't you? So yeah, it took me a long time to learn that lesson, and I'm so glad that I have. And every now and again I find myself back in that place and going, I've said yes to a few too many things. What can I let go of? And it really is interesting when you do start to say no. Like you might have said yes and gone, oh my goodness, I've got too many things on my plate, now I need to backtrack a bit here. It's incredible that the world doesn't fall apart on you. Like I literally did that last week. I was having I wasn't very well. I was coming down with a bit of a cold, and I had said yes to some things, and at the time it was going to work. But as the time got closer, I just was sick and just knew that I wouldn't be able to show up in the right frame that I wanted to. And past Lesa would have gone, no, suck it up. You've signed up for this, do this. But I reached out and said, look, I'm really not in a good place. Can we reschedule? Well, of course they said yes, didn't they? Because they understood the situation and knew that what was happening. So we beat ourselves up and think that we can't say no when we've said yes. And it's just not true. People are understanding if you give them the opportunity to be helpful and to help out.
And I think sometimes there's levels of no. So I think sometimes people think when we ask them to start saying no, that it's, oh no, I can never do that. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be definitive. No could mean I can't today, I can tomorrow. It might mean I can, but I need help with this bit, or I can do some of it, but not all of it. It can be all sorts of things, but we just get this idea that it's so confrontational and so rude sometimes. But and sometimes even, I don't know if you find this, when you have to reschedule, like you said, people sometimes go, oh, thank God, I was just thinking, how will I fit that in? My days got busy, thank you so much.
Oh, so 100%. I don't know how many times, a lot, it'd be equal, but let them off the hook too. And it's like, yesterday I was meant to record another podcast with a friend yesterday. We've got a dual podcast, and she was busy flat out, and I said, look, it's okay. You can't make it. That's fine with me, because I've got stuff I need to do too. Let's do it later. So good.
Yeah.
So good. When you open the dialogue and you start having conversations from a place of authenticity and integrity, in that you're keeping, you're true to yourself, it actually allows other people to be true to themselves as well. So we're giving them the opportunity to really step into their own personal power and go, you know what, it is okay. And I love how you have those different levels of the no's, because sometimes it's not just a flat out no, it's just a not now, or maybe later, or yes, can I have some help, or maybe I'll just do this part of it. So I love that. I love the way you describe that. That's perfect.
Yeah, I think it's a great lesson, not just for people who are burnt out and overwhelmed, but for all of us to learn how to be true to ourselves and communicate that confidently, and that, as you say, the world's not going to fall apart if we tell someone how we feel about something and what we need. So I want to recap a little bit. You've already highlighted a few of the things that you do now. So you've created, as you say, your own systems, your own way of being that allow you flexibility. And of course, not everyone can do that in their work, in terms of they might have a 9 to 5, but we can do it in how we show up, how we structure our life outside of it to be more balanced. You've learnt to say no. You started your yoga and your meditation. I'm assuming those are things you still do. What do you do now to stay in that place where you're feeling good?
Yes, I love that. That's beautiful. And all of those things, but I guess it's really this awareness now. The first thing that really helps me to recognize where I'm at in terms of, let's say, energy levels, and where I've kind of dipped into my resources and started to give away, is that awareness. And with awareness, I can start to notice what I've got going on and do a bit of an assessment, I guess. And like, it doesn't have to, like, I want to say, you can do this anywhere. Like, you don't have to be like I am, where I only work 4 hours a day now and I'm not beholden to a workplace. But you can do this if you work full time. If you've got that 9 to 5, wherever you are, it's that stop in your busy mind and in your busy day and just take a moment to just notice what's going on. And in all honesty, when you do stop, it actually helps you to be more effective and more efficient. We think that by us keeping doing all the time, that we're being productive and being efficient. But what we're doing is getting less and less effective the more we actually do. So I found, for me, it's super important to actually have moments where I do just stop and notice how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, what I've got on my plate, what else I need to do, how my energy feels, if I've been taking care of myself and doing my self-care kind of, it's not anything special and no particular routine. But if I'm eating well, if I'm drinking plenty of water, if I'm getting lots of sleep, and if I'm moving my body, that's my self-care. If any of those 4 key points I've not been touching on because I've got busy or I've been doing other stuff, then I know that I'm not going to be at my best. So checking in is the first thing that I like to do. And it honestly doesn't take a long period of time. Yes, I do it in meditation, but you don't need to. Like, you can literally be in the shower. Let's do it while you're doing something else. While you're having a shower, notice, how do you feel today? What's your energy level like? Have you got a big list of things to do on your to-do list and you're wondering how you're going to fit it all in? Do a mental check. Are there some things that you can let go of that are not necessarily your responsibility? So a bit of a check-in at any point during the day. Do it while you're doing something else. Or if you've got time, sit in meditation. Nothing wrong with that either, which is really good. So awareness is my first port of call. Then it's self-care. So making sure I've got, those 4 things happening, prepared meals that are nutritious and healthy and give me the energy that I need. Sleep is a big, big thing for me, because I used to tell everybody I was a insomniac. I labelled myself as an insomniac because I didn't sleep for, I don't know, the 20 years of my children as a parent. Sleep just wasn't on my radar. I would struggle to sleep and I would go to sleep, I'd wake up 20 times, or I just wouldn't go to sleep because I was worrying about everything. Sleep was just terrible. I reckon I read every book and went to every course and took every type of medication possible to figure out how to sleep. Interestingly, my sleep is directly impacted by how much I have on my plate and my stress levels. So I manage my stress.
Who would have thought?
Yes, interesting concept. So now I manage my stress, which comes with awareness, taking care of myself first. And then if I've got time and I want to, or it feels good to me, I will do things like a yoga flow. I've got a beautiful room set up in my house where I can do yoga. Getting outside, I love being in nature, and we're in a beautiful part of the country where we have the most amazing beaches. And bushwalk. So bushwalk or beach walk, hanging out with my puppy dogs and my cat, and meeting up with my friends, just doing some nice things for me. And that really helps me fill my cup back up and gives me a bit of downtime. And there's fun in there too. Like, all of those things include fun. So having some enjoyment in my life and not being so serious. So I think they're probably the key things that really help me identify first that I'm heading down that path of burnout or overload or stress, and then taking responsibility for myself to let go of stuff that's not necessary. And some of the stuff is not even like tangible things I'm doing for other people. It's sometimes just the thoughts that I'm having in my head. Like, I can wear myself out worrying or overthinking certain things going on in my life, to the point where it's exhausting. And if I just give myself permission to go, you know what, you don't have to worry about that right now. Just let that go. It will be okay. That in itself is quite freeing. So giving me a bit of energy back like that. Yeah. So how does that, is there anything else?
Incredible. They were beautiful tips, really beautiful. And I think that reminder that sometimes it's in our mind and we don't have to, if we're making the choice to be stressed, we can make a choice to react differently, is beautiful. But they are incredible tips. And I kind of don't want to add too much more and wreck that. I want to leave people with those beautiful tips. So thank you so much, Lesa. You just put it so well there. So thank you so much for sharing your journey, all your wisdom that you've learned. If people want to follow you, connect with you, whatever, I have put all your Facebook, Instagram, website, your Facebook group, the Femme Empowered program, and all of that on the show notes. If anyone wants to touch base and connect about working with you, you have a link there for a clarity call with you. And Lesa is very kindly also sharing with us her 45 ways to say no, which is super exciting. That's been such a key message here of you learning how to say no. So there's a link for that as well in the show notes if anyone wants to grab that as well from Lesa. So thank you so much for your generosity, your time, sharing all your wisdom, Lesa. It has been fantastic, and I've learned from you as well. So I hope everyone has got something out of it.
Wonderful. Oh, Shireen, thank you so much for having me on the show. I've loved hanging out with you today. It's been such a revelation as well. And just hearing your story too. We certainly do have a lot in common. And if you and I have that in common, I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of other women out there, men and women out there, who are on a similar journey and thinking to themselves, wow, okay, if these two ladies can make some changes in their life for the better, then that's possible for me too. And I love that. And I think that's one of the things I love about sharing, stories and journeys with other women, is that it gives others the permission to go, oh, wow, it is possible. I can do things differently, particularly if it's not working out how you want it to be. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. And absolutely, that's the whole mission of this podcast, is to help people feel seen and to normalize these experiences. As you said, you thought there was something wrong with you, and that is not the case with anyone. And we can recover and we can do things differently. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you everyone for listening, and tune in for the next episode as well. Thank you. Well, that brings to an end today's episode of Crash, Burn, Rise Again. It's been fantastic to have you with us today, and I hope you can join me next time. I also hope you've really enjoyed and maybe even learnt something today. What I ask next is, if you're loving what you're hearing, please subscribe on whatever channel you normally listen to your podcasts, or on my YouTube channel. And you can also follow along and find all previous podcast episodes on my website, recastcoaching.com.au. If you're enjoying the podcast, the other thing I'd love is if you can share and recommend to any friends, family and colleagues who you think would benefit from a little bit of crash, burn, rise again. Thanks so much, and until next time, bye for now.